Now, you went to America, actually went to America in 2016 just to bet on the US election. Now, given the result, did you make that pay?
Not in gambling terms, no. It'll be my great story to the day I die. I made 11 grand up until the general election. I got a lot right. I didn't get Trump right. When Trump won the nomination, that's more important to me than the Clinton thing. I backed Ted Cruz to win like $500,000, right? And I had everyone else in that Republican race for a lot of money. And the bet was generally just, they will stop Trump. They will have a brokered convention and they will stop him, right? Because they have the means to do it. And it looked like it was going to happen for ages and ages, and it didn't. And I cashed out and I made 8 grand out of that. But it was a blow from what position I was sitting on. And then I went into that general election. It's the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. Going into that general election, the day before, Trump loses me 28 grand, Clinton wins me 25 grand. But she is 1.15 on Betfair. Now, we know what to do in that situation. She went shorter than that. I just got greedy. I was drinking, I was at a party, I was meeting with all these cool people in America, Democrats, strategists and whatnot. And every person you ever met said, he can't win, he can't win. Look at the numbers, look at the demographics, he can't win. And suddenly, and it was going that way, that night was going that way, no one was in question, and then suddenly, bang, some results started coming in from the East Coast, and you're in panic mode. And I ended up bailing out at even money, and half the loss at even money. But you know, it's a crime because I really should have made at least 5 or 6 just cashing out. You know.
Now, you were busy with media work over there. I've did a bit of research, like I always do, and lots of little clips of you on cable TV and national. I don't know what TV channels they were, but how did you manage to get yourself into that position?
Crazy story. Like again, it was just after basically the 2015 UK election. I did some work for Betfair, did some films, helped manage their Betfair Predicts project, and that was the first time I'd ever really, done anything for a wider audience. And immediately, this American TV presenter gets in touch with me and says, we're doing a show about political betting. Do you want to come over and be the guest and we'll pay for you and put you up and all that? So I went over there, I met all these people and they're all going, God, you've got to come over here for 2016. It's going to be, what you do is completely unique over here, right? So I went over there. It was as much of a adventure as a career move, if you like. I mean, it's helped my career, it's got my work. Yeah, and hopefully next year, I haven't really started pitching yet, but hopefully I'll do something over there next year. But it was living the dream, really. It was like, if you're into politics and betting, why wouldn't you want to do that,
So given the disastrous result, did you cop more money out of the media work than you did the punting?
Yes.
Now, you also seem to be the go-to guy for UK politics betting. If anybody wants to talk about that, they get you on. How have you managed to put yourself into that enviable position?
Just I think by relentlessly writing about it and covering it. I mean, that's really how I got into it with Betfair, which, as I say, I did it before the 2015 UK election. I did a lot of American stuff as well. But really, from 2015 onwards, I've just been completely on it. And look at the times we live in. I mean, just to compare how things have changed. Let's go between 2010 and 2015, the Cameron government. All there was to bet on during that time was the next general election, 5 years away, the odd by-election, the Europeans. They're once-a-year events, right? Nobody changed leader during that time. You didn't even get a leadership contest. And then all of a sudden, this situation emerges where you have Labour leadership contest, Brexit referendum, Scottish referendum just before that, so Brexit referendum, and then once Brexit happens, there's a betting heat every day. I mean, I wrote a piece, the last piece I wrote on Brexit and will there be an election this year, and at the bottom of it, I'm just listing how many markets are relevant to it. There's about 20 markets, and it's just constant every day. Like, will there be an election? What will happen first, an election or Brexit? And I think to be able to analyse those markets, you've really got to follow it. You've really got to know your stuff. So I don't suppose there's that many people in the betting game who follow it to the extent I do.
And do you listen to inside information?
It's a good question. I mean, I hate inside information. If I was betting on horses, for instance, I just totally reject it because who knows. I think, yes, if I got something I trusted, I would. I don't think you do get much. I actually think it's more about, I quite enjoy my distance from the insiders. I've got nothing to do with Westminster. I don't know anyone in Westminster, right? And I think that distance actually gives me a bit of an edge because they're a bubble, just like everybody else lives in a bubble. And you couldn't have picked Corbyn, for instance. You couldn't have picked Ted Cruz, right? If you were in that circle, because those people would tell you that we've got some inside information that our establishment candidate is polling really well in these. It's like, there's more to it than that.
Now, I'm told that you ignore polls. You rather talk to the punters in the street and go to the pub and hear the conversation there. So how much of that do you do?
Well, it's a bit of both. I don't ignore polls. I think polls are very useful, right? But they are a snapshot, right? And there's a big margin of error, right? And you have to take a number of polls in the round to get a broad picture. The thing about interviewing people specifically, and this is what I did a lot in America, I've never done it as a job in this country to do that, but it's what I do. I'm really into politics, and the minute you get in a conversation with someone, they don't ask you what you do, it starts, and you just want to hear what they have to say, and you just want to hear their... And yeah, absolutely, I think it's absolutely useful. Not necessarily as a direct predictor of an election, because obviously you go and meet a Labour supporter in a Labour area, what do they know about the rest of the country? They're not representative, and vice versa. But I think it does give you a very different narrative to the one that the media would give you, and you realise how much of it is simplistic and tribal. Something like Brexit, for instance. I don't believe anybody, hardly anybody in this country knew beforehand what the single market or the customs union were. They still don't. It's just not a conversation. You will never meet people in a pub at a bus stop and they'll be arguing about tariff-free access from Europe. It will be straightforward about identity or about something they've read, a popular myth that they've read. That's what... And I think that the political class, as it were, the insiders, they assume that everybody knows what they do, and they just don't, because people aren't that engaged. It's not their jobs to do that. Right.
Now, yeah. Do you actually go to by-election areas to get yourself an edge if there's a tight by-election?
I've never done that. It would be a good thing to do. You don't get that many that are that unpredictable. The other thing about by-election, of course, is the turnout's so pitifully low that the chances are, if you spoke to the average person, the average swing voter, they wouldn't even know what was going on.
Right, now, have you got any political ambitions yourself? Do you fancy being one of them?
No, I've never fancied being one of them. I don't think I've been any good at it. But I have been writing for several years without getting done, various very deep analysis of world politics. So that was what I'd really love to do. I would like to be a full-time political journalist. I would like to, and regarding the stuff we were discussing about Trump, Corbyn, Brexit, the change, information, fake news, data, I've got a 20-year story to tell, which is going to be told when I eventually get that book written.
They're talking about this, you're obviously keen, you're talking about the media there. Now, a lot of people, when I interview professional punters, say, hang on a minute, why is he bothering with all that? He's not a professional punter, he's just winning a few quid and getting... I mean, why are you so interested in the media work? Does that not distract from the main business of making a few quid gambling?
Okay, so it's a good point. Yeah, it probably does distract me. It probably does. I think if I devoted all of my attention solely to winning money, then I'd win more, no doubt about that. But then we go back to who I am, and who I really want to be, as it were. And when I quit the game in the first place, I went to go and study politics at university to be an investigative journalist. And that passion never stopped. The investigative stuff is something that I've just done for fun for 20 years. I know a lot of stuff because I'm interested in it. And so, yeah, in an ideal world, I suppose I would be a political pundit who likes a bet, rather than a professional gambler who writes about politics.
Okay, so people are watching this primarily because they want to learn from you, and they've no doubt learned a fair bit already. In a nutshell, I know it's difficult. How can punters get an edge in anything?
Well, so first of all, knowledge in anything. I mean, this was what going to university really taught me. You know, specialise. You don't have to know everything, right? I used to know every footballer virtually in the 4 leagues. Now I probably couldn't name me 10 because I just cut it out. And replaced it with something that was thing that I had some expertise in. So number 1, knowledge. Number 2, discipline, obviously, and you can't stress that enough. You know, write your bets down, write them down, keep a record. Even if you're just having £2 here, £2 there, whatever, you just want to mess about, keep a record. And then at some point, when you've got a minute, go through that record, separate them and say, these were my bets on football and cricket, on snooker and on these particular markets. And I think that it becomes really clear. That's what I did. I just wrote everything I did down, and it became obvious that I'm putting all this time into football and I'm losing. I put this much amount of time in cricket and look at the profits. To do that. And then thirdly, you cannot underestimate the ability, the skills that you learn from learning about odds making. This, all the betting nowadays, as constructed by bookies, is done on algorithms, right? And algorithms is great for the overall, but you can beat them if you've got extra knowledge. You can absolutely beat them if you've got a particular understanding about the way that a sport, the trajectory of the market moves in running, and you can price something up on the go, right? Then you have an edge. I mean, I learned this doing the craziest sort of gambling. Me and my mates, when we were kids, we would bet on everything. We would pause the video on EastEnders and say, right, betting on who speaks next. Yeah? 6-4 Sharon, 3-1 Phil Mitchell, blah, blah. Now, when you're doing that on everything, on the next record to come on the radio, it becomes second nature. And all of us who did that, in their mid-40s, even though they don't do it anymore, I guarantee if I said to them, okay, what odds you give me on like something, anything, they'd be pretty close because they understand. Okay. They have that level of expertise.
So finally, what are you doing in 20 years' time?
I'll be gambling, that's for sure, because how can you not? I mean, there's never going to come a time in my life, even if the government called me as an advisor or something, right? I was working for the BBC. I still want to watch the World Snooker Championship, and there's no way I'm watching any game at the World Snooker Championship without a bet because I've got an opinion, right? There's no way I'm ever going to go into an election and not have a bet because I'm always going to have an opinion. So I guess pretty much the same. Hopefully more of politics and more of journalism, but I'll never stop gambling on the things I love.
Brilliant. Paul Krishnamurty, thank you very much.
Pleasure.